What's going on YouTube? Earth Power here with CVH.
How's it going, everybody?
And we're back after what feels like a slightly extended break. But due to internet issues and all that other fun stuff, we're coming back to bring you guys some deck profiles. So today we have leg 4 of the play-in tournament. Excuse me, featuring Forcive Deformer Burn, concoction that NASA's brought to IDC 31 that just gave me the absolute hands, and I felt like it needed to be in the play-in, so we audibled at the last minute to try to include this one, and we're pitting it against Darkfire Nature Survivors, and the winners of that will go on to play Rub, who is the gatekeeper for leg 4. And
Yeah,
yeah, for those of you who are looking at this title treatment right now, Water Nature Pincer
oh
ended up
yeah,
winning plan.
it did. If you haven't seen that match, hey, you missed it. We spoiled it. Whatever. Just go check it out. It's on the channel.
Yeah,
Want to jump
somewhere. Yep.
into Water Dark Fire Nature Turbo Burn, Deformer
Let's do it.
Burn, whatever you want to call it. Let's do it
Yeah.
indeed. So tell us about this and how it is similar and maybe differs from Nasus's tournament version from IDC 31.
So IDC 31 saw NASA's play a 50 card version of this deck with some cards like Crisis Boulder, which I don't know is very good. And I think even he admittedly said he was just
But
playing 2
wait,
relics in his deck.
he was actually playing 40. Just so you
Was
know.
he playing 40?
Yeah, he posted the list
Shit.
in the tournament. Yeah, he just wasn't playing Fortress Shell.
Hmm.
Zero
Okay.
of Fortress Shell.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
And
Got
some
it.
other
Yeah.
changes too.
So right. So the whole idea of this deck is that it just plays its whole darkness section is Lost Soul Plague. And then the rest of this deck is just meant to go I mean it defines turbo burn, right? Your Essence Elf, Fairy Life, those are your twos. You're just trying to get to Mana Crisis, Reap and Sow. And if you're hitting these cards on curve after the Elf and or Fairy Life, you're just keeping your opponent at 3 to 4 mana over the course of you building to 8, at which point you're using Aqua Deformer to reload your hand, and then start mounting creatures on board, which you can then start attacking with, and using cards like Bombazar to maintain aggression while still mana burning in the turns that you might have to miss Mana Crisis or Reap and Sow to weave in other cards. Um, yeah, this list I think was more key for IDC, especially because they're playing 4 of Soulswap. And I
That
think that
helps.
card lends itself more to cards like Deformer, where you want to be able to weave you want to be able to weave in multiple Deformers, because technically, if you're playing Deformer on 8, you're not going to have the mana to play it the turn after. If you wanted to weave in another one, and Soulswap helps you get there. If you are just trying to, in that same sense, using the namesake of the deck for it when you are trying to turbo burn.
Yeah, it's a cool deck. Fortress Shell is the safe burn card, but this deck really just, throws caution to the wind. And, I think the reason Nasus was playing more copies of, I think he was playing 4 Plagues and maybe 4 Deformer too. Like, the reason he's playing these cards are very sort of tough to use correctly. They're good in like 2 specific situations. One, when you have a lot of board pressure and you can start attacking, so your opponent doesn't have time to replay the cards you're giving them. Or 2, when you're already very far ahead in the mana race, so even though they're getting cards, they're simply just not able to use them, even if you're not pressuring them on board. And this deck really does fall into like the latter game plan, where, okay, well, I have to be ahead in the mana race, so I'm just going to get ahead early with Essence Elf, Fairy Life, Crisis or Crisis Boulder, maybe even a Bombazar. Definitely the 4 Reap and Sows are coming into play, and if you're playing Deformer or Plague when you have 5, or your opponent has like 4 or 5 mana, then yeah, I mean, they have 7 cards in hand and they can only play 1, maybe, and it's not going to be a good one. So, it's a very all-in style deck that really needs to hit its curve, but that's why the whole deck is what you want to play on curve, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so this was a fun adaptation without having the list as we were going through IDC 31. This is what I threw together with 40 cards, added Fortress Shell because I figured it was being played. But yeah, there we are.
It seems like it would, right? But it wasn't, yeah. At
Yeah.
least I'm pretty sure it wasn't. If I'm just wrong, then I'm just wrong. And it's up against Darkfire Nature Survivors, back again
It
for the 3rd time.
Survivors kind of falls into that same category as Wave Strikers, right? Like we were really high on it going into season one, where we thought we'd just broken open the meta. Had no idea that IDC was just years and years and years ahead of us by the time we came back to the game. And this Survivors kind of fell into that category of like, wow, Fortress Shell and Graveworm just absolutely destroy control matchups. But
Factory Shell, but Fortress Shell does that
Factory
too.
Shell. Sorry,
To be
yeah. So,
fair,
but yeah, Factory Shell and Graveworm. But I don't know. It's just for whatever reason, and I guess I know for whatever reason, because it's still kind of like that high C, low B tier style deck. It just the consistency's just not there. And Survivors, yeah, granted, we pitted it against Fire Nature Rush for 2 seasons in a row, and
yeah.
this deck just really doesn't handle Rush well. But in that same vein, we brought it back, relegated it to the play-in, and said, "Hey, let's give Darkfire Nature its proper turn and actually build this deck at least more correctly than we did in season one."
Yeah, season 2 had the light variant in there with some Sky Sword action and a Forbos and like Holy On stuff. And that deck is good too. I mean, that version did actually top 8 IDC 31. I think Otto was playing it, but that was also like probably closer to a 50 card version of the deck.
Yeah,
When you have an
that
extra
wasn't a
Civ, it's really
jam-packed
hard to
40. Yeah.
yeah, hard to pack all those civs into 40 and survivors when you have so much you need to play. So back to its roots. There it is, Darkfire Nature. This time with added shield triggers. I think season one was very, very light on them, and now you've got the burst shots, Giga Balls, Terror Pits, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
and the
know.
Splash
I didn't play
Charger,
this
which
deck
was
at all,
fun.
so
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
The Slash idea was actually I saw Otto playing it too. In our meta, it's limited, right? Or is it not anymore? I have no
correct.
idea. It's limited to one, so just a one of was allowed. But the idea is slash charging your own survivor into the discard pile, playing a turn 4 Graveworm to get whatever you got with slash charger, and you sort of played a crystal memory with ramp basically in a sort of a
Yeah,
roundabout way.
yeah, it's like a bronze arm tribe that isn't quite bronze arm tribe.
Yeah, it kind of gets there, but Grave Worm
Right.
makes it good basically. And I was kind of it felt was vindicated to see that Otto was playing like 3 slash chargers in the 4 Civ Survivor deck too. So obviously the idea has some merit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just a cleaned up version of our season one list. You guys can go back and watch the season one list, and our thoughts on survivors. Because I mean, the deck's pretty much the same. It's just we cleaned up the removal section. We're actually playing 4 bronze arm tribe this time, and yeah, all the good things.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
those two are
and
gonna
the
play.
winner,
Winner is up against
yeah,
what?
one of those will win and go on to face Rub. Rub mid-range as it is. We defined this deck as control for so many years as we played it, because I mean we were jamming, I don't know, 50 plus cards in a very slow version of this of these 3 civs. But the deck definitely plays more like mid-range, where it can get aggressive early if it needs to. It can lean on momentum of just going Hulkus into Loco into Corile, and then just kind of take advantage of the board from there and just start swinging. But the top end, I think, is more cleaned up this time around. To Velirica, the Bali, the Baza. Again, just playing that mid-range battle. Velirica into Velirica into Bomidius is sometimes just too much for a lot of decks to handle, and a bunch of 7,000 power creatures that replace themselves can be quite overwhelming
Yeah,
given certain situations.
the lines are definitely blurred between mid-range and control. I wouldn't really judge anyone for saying this is a control deck because it
Yeah,
obviously plays that role against like Rush or something. It's not just going to be racing with Hulkus. But it's a cool deck that can play pretty defensively, but also, like you said, apply a bunch of pressure late game. Has access to all that great fire removal, tons of discard in this version. The 3 clamps. I was just really excited to have a deck in the bracket that took advantage of clamp being unlimited in season 3.
yeah,
So this felt like the perfect choice. Um, Not shying away from those 7 cost spells, Lost Soul and Apocalypse Vice at 2 ofs each. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a classic deck. I'm a big fan. It gets to run a lot of the cards we
yeah,
fell in love with, and some new tech choices. Magmarex poking its head in. That's kind of the only one now that I'm looking at it. That's like actually a
yeah.
card we haven't played much before, but still.
And yeah, the Ice Vapor is the one of the cool thing about Rub, and I think the reason why it's just considered the classic control, if you will, is because it plays a combination of colors that just lend themselves to maintaining a hand, discarding yours, and just disrupting everything on board. Like it gets the three best civs when it comes to control in that aspect. I mean, with the exception of light, which is why Forbos and Foul kind of take the cake in that. But this deck just plays a much more streamlined version of that and gets to lean on cards like Hulkus and Corile, cards that you would usually otherwise cut in those Foul and Forbos decks. And yeah, it just gets to play the disruption engines. I mean, getting to have Surfer, Loco, Terror Pit, and all of your fire removal just usually means it's a bad time for any aggressive deck and aggressive metas. And again, I think that's why this deck has stood the test of time and continues to just kind of hang around, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, and it's just fun to play those foil Hulkus and something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we keep including it, including the foil Hulkuses in here because four of Hulkus has to go in something, right? So
Yeah,
might
we
as well
have
be one.
a. If anyone else has noticed, we have sort of a running joke where like whatever deck the four of Invitational Hulkus goes in loses. It's like the curse of the foil Invitational Hulkus,
It keeps
the
happening.
curse of
Yeah,
thousands of dollars of cards. So yeah, stay tuned to see if the curse continues in the play-in gatekeeper match because we've cursed Rub this time.
absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, guys, leave a comment down below. Let us know what you guys think of this play-in leg. I will I don't know who I'm going to be in the booth with here in the next couple of days as I gear up for Turboburn versus Survivors, but stay tuned for that. It should be coming at you here in the next day or two. Schedule's kind of wonky this week as we kind of get back to reality. CVH came down for a
Yep.
while, and
Took a week
yeah,
off and I'm very busy. I'm a busy boy back
yeah,
at work and home.
absolutely. So yeah, stay tuned. This week's going to be silly, but should be back to your regularly scheduled program as CVH and I have more time to kind of just sit back and actually get through all of this narration and stuff. So
Yep.
stay tuned. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, and until next time, guys. Peach.
Each.